Inner text and text content are two properties of DOM element that returns the text characters in an element. Though it looks like they're doing the same thing, they have their differences, and depending on what your needs are, using one might be better than using the other, as I'll be showing you in this video. So I have some code examples here. Let's say we have this code here. On the screen, this is how it appears, and you can see that even though we have a line break from this point to this point, tab space, another line break to this end, it doesn't reflect on the screen because during rendering those spaces do not appear. Now let's see what we get from inner text and from text content. I'm going to get the paragraph here, and I'm going to have two console logs. The first one is the inner text. We have para.innerText, then text content, para.text content. Now if we look at the console, you see that inner text has this hyphen, which I added here so that we can see the starting and ending points. So we have hyphen, then we have hello, my name is Dillion, I like writing articles, and hyphen. But when we come to the text content part, we see that the line breaks are displayed. From the start here, we have a line break, then we have a space here. Hello, my name is Dillion. We have another line break, space, I like writing articles, then another line break to the end. And if you look, this is actually how we have it in our code. Line break, some text, another line break, another text, then we get to the end here. So what you can already see is that inner text only cares about what is displayed on the layout. It doesn't care about what you have in your code, but text content cares about the raw string from your code, regardless of how it appears on the screen. If I should come here now, and let's just say I had extra spaces here. If I come here and refresh, you see inner text only cares about this because that's the only thing that is rendered, but text content cares about the raw string. Let me show you another example. We have a button with a display of none. Then in this button, we have click me. We have a line break. Then we have, so you see what happens. We're going to see what inner text and text content is. So if I come here now and I refresh, you see that here, there is supposed to be a button, right? But because we styled the button with a display of none, we don't see that button here, and all we just see is so you see what happens. Well, we have the line break because that is rendered, then we have so you see what happens. So the line break is here, and then we have so you see what happens. But what does inner text contain? Well, inner text contains that line break that we have, then it has so you see what happens. If I should remove this line break, you see that inner text just has so you see what happens because the line break wasn't rendered. But let me put it back. So inner text has the line break, then so you see what happens. But what does text content have? It actually has the click me that we have display of none. It still displays here, click me. Then we have some space with the line break, and then we have so you see what happens at the end. So what we see here is that the inner text property is a representation of the rendered text of a HTML element. The rendered text contains the text of the direct children and all descendants of that element, while text content represents the raw text of a HTML element in the source code. But why does this difference matter? Well, inner text triggers a reflow of the HTML element it is triggered on. The purpose of this is so that inner text gets the up-to-date layout information of that element. Now you look at the MDN docs for reflow. Reflow happens when a browser recalculates the position and geometry of certain parts of a web page. Now as we've seen, inner text cares about the layout, right? So that means when you call inner text, it has to ensure that it is getting the up-to-date version of the layout. Now reflows can be expensive, especially if you are triggering them a lot, because after reflow, then you have repainting. The browser has to redraw a few things, so that can affect the performance of your application if you are doing inner text a lot. On the other hand, text content does not care about the layout. If you have display of none, if you have font size big, if you have margin bottom or margin top, text content does not care about that. It just returns what is already in the code. So unless you really care about the text representation of the layout, using text content just saves you of some of those unnecessary reflows that would be triggered when you need that information. Another interesting thing with text content is that it even displays what you have in your script and style tags. So here we have body with an ID of body, and we have style, we have h1 my page, then we have script, and then let's just say I log the inner text and text content of what we have in the body. Now if I come here and I refresh, on the body we have this styled to red because that's what we have in our style, h1 color red, but all that is rendered on the screen is inner text versus text content my page. My page is coming from this new h1 we have here. here. So now when we come to body and we say inner text only cares about what we have on the layout, which is this. So inner text returns inner text versus text content, then a line break and my page. But what does text content return? Well, it returns everything in the body. It returns these, all the spaces. It returns the content of the style tag. It returns my page, of course, without the tags. Even when we come to this script where we have console.log hello, it returns that too. Even everything that we have here, because it all still falls under the body tag, you can see that it returns all of this here. So in this case, you might have to do some filtering when you want to use text content, because you might only care about the information in a certain element. Well, in that case, you can get the text content of just that element. But if you don't know what that element is, but you still care about the text, now in this case, you can use inner text, because inner text does not care about all this gibberish from your source code. All it cares about is what appears on the screen. Now, I was working on a demo recently where I found myself using inner text and I ran into some troubles, and text content was what I needed. So I was explaining a few things about the Fetch API, and then I also showed how to generate this ChatGPT kind of response where you ask a question and then one word after the other is coming. You can check out the video to learn more about it, because I don't want to go into the details here. Here we have a stream from our server coming to the client, and then on the client, as we get the data from that stream, we add inner text to the GPT response element. So this is what it looks like when I refresh. You see we have this kind of ChatGPT response. Now what I'm doing here from the server is that I am streaming 8 bytes at a time to the client. 8 bytes at a time is like 8 characters. Now what happens when I want to stream just 1 byte, which is 1 character? What you're going to observe now is that we don't have any space. So when I refresh, you see we don't have any space in the text. This is the data we are streaming. It's just some lorem ipsum. You can see in the lorem ipsum we have some spaces, but for some reason those spaces are skipped when we use inner text. So we have lorem, there is no space, then ipsum, no space, then dollar, and the rest. Well, the problem is I was using inner text, and just as we established, if you have an extra space at the end of the content of an element, that space will be ignored. Inner text doesn't care about the raw string, it just cares about what will be rendered. But if I come here now and I change the inner text to text content, now text content does not care about layout, so that way it will display everything that it sees in that string. So now when I refresh it, you can see one character is coming after the other and the spaces are displayed. The video will be linked below. You can check it out to learn how I'm doing something like this. So depending on what you're trying to achieve, again, text content might just be what you need, or inner text. But I hope with this video you understand the difference. Please subscribe and like if you enjoyed it, and see you in my next video.